2023. I felt like I just battled reading slump after reading slump, but somehow I still managed to read 77 books. I honestly don't know how. Every year I set the same goal. I always set my goal at 52 because one book a week is manageable for me, and I don't like to pressure myself to read. I like to really enjoy reading and not feel like I have to rush through books or meet a certain quota. I also feel the need to say that it honestly does not matter how many books you read in a year, in a week, in a month, whatever. It does not matter. As long as you're enjoying reading, that is what matters. I just wanted to really emphasize that. As long as you're enjoying reading, the numbers do not matter. So I guess I'll just get right into it. I'm gonna start off, maybe just go month by month with what I read, just to break it up. I have it kind of sorted that way too. So January, I actually got off to a really good start, and I read quite a few books that I really loved in January. So it was a really good month for me, honestly. So the first thing that I picked up in 2023 was You by Carolyn Kepnes. You might have heard of the Netflix show with Penn Badgley as Joe Goldberg. The book is more terrifying than the show, and it makes you feel kind of gross. I didn't rate this one. I didn't feel comfortable rating it because it was really good and I didn't want to put it down, but it was also deeply disturbing. So didn't rate this one, but I did enjoy it, and if you like creepy things, I highly recommend it. I also own Hidden Bodies, which is the sequel to You, but I didn't get to that until a little bit later in the year because You freaked me out and I really needed a break mentally from that little ordeal. After that, I ended up reading something a lot more cutesy and heartfelt because I really needed to read something light and fun, and that was Everyone's an Alien When You're an Alien Too by Jomny Sun. I think that's how you say his name. This one, 5 stars. I cannot say enough good things about it. It is literally the perfect book for anyone and everyone. Just go into it expecting cute, simple, and honestly kind of meaningful if you read into it. I love this book. This is one I'm definitely going to be reading every single year. And when I finished that, I picked up Tom Felton's autobiography, Beyond the Wand. I grew up on Harry Potter like a lot of people my age, so this I was really looking forward to, and he did not disappoint. He had stuff about Harry Potter, but then also about his own life, and I recommend it to anyone who also grew up on Harry Potter or just likes Tom Felton. Then I picked up The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman. I read The Thursday Murder Club last year, 2022, I guess, and I really loved it. I love all of the characters. I think that they have really great chemistry, and this one did not disappoint as well. So to me, it was 5 stars. If you love a whodunit, like lighthearted, funny mystery, this one is definitely for you. Then I picked up 99% Mine by Sally Thorne, and I hated this book with my entire soul. The main character was instantly a pick-me girl. She said things that were super unnecessary, like my handwriting isn't girly and it's masculine looking, and I wear a leather jacket and have short hair and I'm not like the other girls. Just made me roll my eyes from the first chapter, and so I only read a few chapters and then I skimmed the rest because I did kind of want to know what happened, but I just did not have the energy to read that kind of a book, and it was awful. 1 star, do not recommend that. If you love The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, just stick with The Hating Game. Then throughout January, I also read Bright Poems for Dark Days, which is an anthology of hope, and it's a nice bind up of a lot of different poems. This is how I first started reading nature poetry, actually, and I found out that that is my favorite kind of poetry from this. I really love it. I think if you have never really dipped your toes into poetry before, this is the perfect bind up to start with because it's got a little taste of everything. So I highly recommend this one. This one was definitely 5 stars for me. Then I read Gyo by Junji Ito, and I love Junji Ito with my entire being. But this one was a little bit of a miss for me. I rated it 3 stars. I did really enjoy it. It just got a little bit silly about 3/4 of the way through, and I wish he would have just ended it before it got silly. But I will say the stories at the end of it, like there's like 2 short stories after Gyo, they were really, really good. And those 2 I'd rate 5 stars. But Gyo itself, eh. And then lastly for January, I read I Love You, Call Me Back by Sabrina Benaim. I really loved this poetry collection. This one was 5 stars to me as well. It was really well written and it hit me right in the feels, honestly. And then starting off February, I did my yearly reread of Pride and Prejudice, which is my absolute favorite novel. If you've never read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, you're missing out. This is my favorite novel. And actually, I was named after Elizabeth Bennet, so it was just meant to be. This edition, my boyfriend got for me off of the BBC shop, and it is gorgeous. It has handwritten letters from different people. I won't open it because I don't want to spoil it if you've never read it, but this one is from Mr. Darcy to Miss Elizabeth Bennet, and seeing the thickness, you can guess which letter this is if you have read the book. But yeah, obviously this one's 5 stars to me. After that, I read another book about Jane Austen, kind of. So I read Jane Was Here by Nicole Jacobson and Devin Dayton, and illustrated by Lexi K. Nilsson. So these 3 women are fans of Jane Austen, and they traveled parts of Europe and visited places where Jane Austen wrote some of her books and where some of the movies and miniseries adaptations were filmed for Pride and Prejudice, and it was just a really fun read and honestly made me want to do that too, so hopefully that's in the future for me somewhere. But I really love this one, and if you're a Jane Austen fanatic, definitely recommend it. This one was 5 stars to me. Next, I read The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels by India Holton. I had the physical copy of this book, but I gave it away because I did not like it. This one was 2 stars for me. I'm not sure if it's because I read it after Pride and Prejudice and I was expecting a lot more, but if you are reading this one, I will let you know that there are houses that people can fly, because nowhere was that explained to me and I had to figure that out on my own. Maybe you'll enjoy it more than I did if you go into it knowing that. And then throughout February, I read Love and Misadventure by Lang Leave. I loved this poetry collection. It was phenomenal. If you love poetry about love, highly recommend this one. This one was 4 stars to me. Then I finally felt brave enough to pick up Hidden Bodies by Carolyn Kepnes. This one didn't disappoint either. I liked it just as much as you, but definitely if you're going to read either of these, check the content warnings and don't go into it expecting it to be exactly like the TV series either, because there are differences. And then last thing for February that I read was Over My Dead Body by Sweeney Boo. Then for March, I read The Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare. I don't think I need to talk much about these because they are very widely known and loved, and I too love them. The first time I read them was like 2013, and rereading these was a trip down memory lane. I really love them still. They're all 5 stars to me. And I told myself in 2023 that I wanted to start rereading some of Cassandra Clare's older works about Shadowhunters so I could start getting into her newer stuff, because I haven't read any of the new stuff because I forgot what happened in the old stuff. Then we have our pile for April. So to start off with April, I read The City of Heavenly Fire by Cassandra Clare, which is the last book in the Mortal Instruments series, and 5 stars. Then I read Sad Birds Still Sing by Far Away, which is a poetry collection that's also very heartfelt and like poems about loss and grief, and I really loved it. This one was 5 stars as well. Then I read the manga trilogy for Cat Massage Therapy by Haru Hisakawa, and I really loved these. These were 4 stars to me just because the cats in it reminded me of my own cats, my beautiful little girls. If you really love cute cat manga, and I know that there's a lot out there, but if you love cute cat manga and just want to pick something up for cuteness, I highly recommend this. If you're picking up something for plot, I probably wouldn't recommend this. Then I read Final Girls by Riley Sager on my Kobo. This book was super hyped up at this time. Everyone was reading it, and I was really looking forward to reading it too. I thought it was going to be groundbreaking for like a thriller mystery. I was a little disappointed, I'll be honest with you, and I think it's just because there was so much hype around it. I did like it, but definitely not my favorite thriller that I've ever read. So this one I rated 4 stars, which is still high. It's just I was expecting like 6 stars, but I do recommend it if you like thrillers. Then I read The Dressmakers of Auschwitz by Lucy Adlington. And I like to read memoirs and a lot of stuff about history, especially World War I and World War II. And I did not rate this one because I didn't feel right rating it. But if you like learning about history and like reading memoirs and such, I do recommend this one, but I will say you should definitely check the content warnings first because there was definitely some disturbing topics within it. Then I read Stray Dogs by Tony Fleecs, Trish Forstner, Brad Simpson, and Tony Rodriguez. I'll be honest with you, I bought this one solely based on the cover because it's dogs as the cover of Scream, and I love that movie. And this one was really good. I rated this one 5 stars. It was really hard hitting. I wasn't expecting it to be so dark. It's horror, so don't expect a cutesy little dog graphic novel because that's not what you're gonna get. But it was really well done, and then at the end they have different like alternate covers, and it's different takes on the dogs on different like horror movie covers, and I really enjoyed that. That was a nice little tidbit at the end. Lastly, for April, I read Talk Bookish to Me by Kate Bromley, and I really liked this one, except for a certain thing that happens that I won't say because I don't want to spoil it, but that brought it down to a 4 stars for me when it was going to be a 5 stars. Okay, now we are into May, and May was another really good reading month. So to start off, I read The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie, and you can never go wrong with an Agatha Christie Hercule Poirot mystery. This is the first book in the Hercule Poirot series, and I really, really loved it. I'm really looking forward to reading the rest of them. Yeah, I really recommend it. If you've never read Agatha Christie, I definitely recommend giving her a try because you never know. She might just become your favorite author. Then I read The League of Gentlewoman Witches by India Holton. And I also gave this book away because I was really angry at it while I was reading it and it was just not good. If you're a Mr. Darcy lover, do not recommend this one. This one was 2 stars to me. Then I also read Great Goddesses by Nikita Gill, and I also really loved this poetry collection. If you love Greek mythology and you love poetry, this one I highly recommend, and this one was also 5 stars. Then I read Hex by Jenny Fagan. I really loved this. This to me was 5 stars. I read it in one sitting. It was super lyrical and really impactful. Then I read the first 2 books in the Infernal Devices trilogy, Clockwork Angel and Clockwork Prince. Once again, Cassandra Clare, 5 stars. Love this world. Love these so much. Now we are into June. Starting off in June, I read Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare, also 5 stars, just like its 2 predecessors. Then I read The Universe of Us by Lang Leave. This one was another 4 star for me by Lang Leave, and I love this one just as much as Love and Misadventure. Then I read The Sad Ghost Club by Liza Meddings, and I really enjoyed this one. This one was such a cutesy little graphic novel, and if you love cutesy little ghosty graphic novels, this one's definitely for you. This one was 4 stars. And I read this beautiful edition of The Hobbit. The cover is illustrated by John Howe, and I was looking for this edition for ages. Then I read Twistwood Tales by A.C. McDonald. I have not seen this one talked about enough. It was so clever, so well done. It's this adorable little graphic novel with like every page or 2 is like a separate little comic. The puns and jokes in it were really well done, and it was 5 stars. I highly recommend it, especially if you love humor-filled comics and like cutesy spooky things. Then lastly for June, I read Buzzwords, Poems About Insects. This felt like a very summery thing to read. I rated this one 5 stars, and I did not think I was going to read poetry about insects and love it that much, but I truly did. A lot of people write poetry about bugs and write it very well. Starting off for August, reading one of the best books ever written, in my opinion, Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. It was so well written, so well thought out. It's just amazing. If you have not read this yet, and I'm sure most people have because it's been around for ages and it took me long enough to get to it, but if you have not read this yet, you need to. And if you've seen the movie and think that that's good enough and you haven't read it yet, screw the movie, read the book, please. Then I read Watering the Soul by Courtney Peppernell. And I love these collections of poetry by Courtney Peppernell. There's cute little illustrations all throughout. Oh, I just made a mess. Then I read Out of His League by Carolyn Richardson on my Kobo. And I just have to say, if you're going to write a romance book about baseball, please look up the rules to baseball before you write the book. 2 stars. Don't recommend it. The romance was not worth it. Then I read The Bane Chronicles by Cassandra Clare, Maureen Johnson, and Sarah Reese Brennan. And just like her other works, I really love this. I love the characters that it follows, and the little illustrations throughout it were really nice as well. So this one was 4 stars. And then into August, I read Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Reese Brennan, Maureen Johnson, and Robin Wasserman. And once again, this was another 5-star read by Cassandra Clare. Then I read the book 1 bind up of the comic Monstrous by Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda. It's monstrous. It's a freaking monstrous comic. This one I did not rate because I really loved the illustration and I loved the idea of it, but it was really confusing and I felt really dumb reading it. I think it would be a lot easier to follow, but for my little bubblegum brain, it was not. Then I listened to the audiobook What Happened to You by Oprah Winfrey and Bruce D. Perry. And this was the first audiobook I've ever listened to in my entire life. And it was so well narrated. It got me hooked on audiobooks, specifically like nonfiction audiobooks read by the author. Super well done. Had me thinking about my own life and made me realize that we all are the way we are based on our childhoods. It was very, very well written, very well planned, and I highly recommend this one, especially the audiobook version. Then I listened to the audiobook No Time Like the Future by Michael J. Fox. This one was also really well written and it was read by Michael J. Fox himself. I also really loved this one. If you are a Michael J. Fox fan or a Back to the Future fan, highly recommend. He is hilarious and the book made me laugh out loud like constantly. And then I listened to another audiobook. See, when I said the Oprah one hooked me, I was not kidding. I listened to When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Calanthe, and it was narrated by someone else because Paul wrote this book while he was dying and facing his own mortality. So obviously, once the book was published, he was already dead. This one was so eye-opening and a little disturbing at times, but also very thought-provoking, and I absolutely loved it, and I do highly recommend the audiobook. It was very, very well narrated. Then I read The Help by Catherine Stockett. This one I didn't rate. Then lastly, for August, I read A Gift for a Ghost by Borja Gonzalez. And I also didn't rate this one because I really loved the art style and I loved the idea of it, but the execution wasn't the greatest. Now we are into September, and to start with September, I read the Red Scrolls of Magic duology, which I just found out recently. It's actually supposed to be a trilogy. It's just been a long time coming for the 3rd book to come out apparently, and I don't think there's actually a release date for it yet, or it keeps getting pushed back. But these two I really, really like. The first one I rated 4 stars, and the second one I rated 5 stars. Then I read Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu. This edition is gorgeous, and I loved this story so much. 5 stars. If you like Dracula and you like old gothic spooky things, highly, highly, highly recommend this one. Then I also read The Way Back Home by Courtney Peppernell, and this is like a second book in the series for Watering the Soul. Once again, really loved this collection. Now we're on to October, and as you can see, October has a literal brick in it. And that is It by Stephen King. I did not read the physical book, but I do own the physical book. I listened to the audiobook, narrated by Steven Weber. The audiobook was really, really, really well done, and I loved this book. 5 stars. I've read a few Stephen Kings before, but this one obviously intimidated me, so I decided to go with the audiobook, and I'm really glad that I did. But now I feel like when I reread it, I'll definitely reread the physical copy. Okay, then I read the graphic novels Sheets, Delicates, and Lights by Brenna Thumler. All 3 of them were 4 stars to me, but I gifted them to someone else who I feel like would enjoy them a lot more than me. I don't think I'll ever read them again, but I did enjoy them. Then I read the graphic novel duology Garlic and the Witch and Garlic and the Vampire by Brie Paulson, and I also really loved these. These ones were both 4 stars to me, and I highly recommend them if you like cutesy, spooky things. Again, obviously there's a theme here. I myself enjoy cutesy, spooky things. Then I read Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff on my Kobo, and I rated it 2 stars, and I did not enjoy it, and I don't really want to talk about it much more than that because it's not an experience I want to relive. That book is massive, and it's definitely for some people, and I am not one of those people. And throughout October, I read Poems Dead and Undead, which is by various authors. These were just poems about like ghosts and ghouls and goblins and zombies. It was really fun to read during the spooky season. Then I read The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling on my Kobo. I really liked this one. It was just a cute, fun little spooky romance, and I rated it 4 stars. And then finally for October, I read the graphic novel for Dracula by Bram Stoker. I really loved this one. It's starring Bela Lugosi, so it's got beautiful, beautiful artwork in it, and they captured his essence perfectly. This one was 5 stars. November looks very small and sad, but I think it's because I read a few books on my Kobo. So starting off, I read Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon, and this one was 3 stars to me. I honestly think I'm probably going to unhaul this one because I can't see myself reading it again, but I did enjoy it for a one-time read. Then I listened to the audiobook I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, and I really loved this audiobook. I highly recommend it, even if you're not like an iCarly watcher, because I didn't watch iCarly that much growing up. This one was really hard-hitting. I didn't rate it because I'm trying not to rate autobiographies, but I highly recommend it. Just definitely check the content warnings before going into that one. Then I read The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang on my Kobo as well, and I really liked this one. This one I rated 4 stars. Definitely wouldn't recommend it if you're not into spice, because that's kind of the premise of the book. Then I read The Girl from the Sea by Molly Knox Ostertag, and I also really enjoyed this one. It's kind of a coming-of-age graphic novel, and I rated it 4 stars. I feel like I might also unhaul this one and give it to someone I know who might get more enjoyment out of it than I will. And then I read Beast at Every Threshold by Natalie Wee, and I absolutely loved this collection of poetry. It was very, very unique. It was 5 stars. Now we are finally into our last little pile for December. So to start, I read In a Holidays by Christina Lauren on my Kobo, and this one I absolutely loved. 5 stars. I'm definitely going to be reading more Christina Lauren in the very near future. Then I read A Classic Christmas Treasury by various authors, and this one was 4 stars to me. Definitely recommend this one if you want to get into classic Christmas tales around the holidays. Then I read Just for December by Laura Jane Williams. This one was 3 stars to me. I did really enjoy it, but I don't think I'd ever pick it up again, and probably wouldn't pick up anything else by that author, but it was good for a one-time read. Okay, I also listened to the audiobook The Chimes by Charles Dickens in between this book and the next, but I completely forgot to put it in this video. I rated that one 2 stars. I didn't really enjoy it, and I don't recommend it. Then I read Letters from Father Christmas by J.R.R. Tolkien, and I absolutely adored this one. This one was 5 stars. If you're a Tolkien fan, highly recommend it. I mean, there are elves and goblins in it, so is it part of Middle-earth? It could be. Okay, then I read Cryptid Club by Sarah Anderson. I've been dying to read this one. I can't believe it took me so long to pick it up, but I thought, you know what, we're at the end of the year. I feel like reading something super lighthearted and fun. If you love fangs, you're gonna love this one. It was hilarious. The jokes were very well written and thought of. The illustrations are adorable, and it is 5 stars. And then my last book of 2023 was a poetry collection again, Poems About Trees. I just discovered my love for poetry about nature this year. This one was 4 stars. So that was it for 2023. Thank you for joining me. Yeah, thank you for listening to me ramble about 77 books. I still can't believe that that was that many. It didn't really even feel like it just talking about them. It's kind of crazy because I think about the year and some of them I don't even remember reading this year. So it's crazy to kind of like actually put them in a list and be like, oh, okay, wow, I really did read this much this year. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys had a really great reading year. Hope you got to read a few 5-star reads. Let me know in the comments below if you read any of the same books as me and what your thoughts were on them. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and happy reading.